Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, July 12th, and we have another daily quest due to the Fire Festival, so we need to re-roll this, I suppose. And I guess I probably wasn't paying enough attention to see if maybe this unlocked early yesterday, and so I may have missed another daily quest for whatever little amount that's worth. Otherwise, we need to win 3 games with a mage or shaman on the Americas account. I got woken up early yesterday and spent the entire day, due to having insomnia, basically trying to go back to sleep, so I literally have nothing to talk about as far as what I did in the previous day. That's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. So that's gonna limit the amount of things we really need to talk about. Are we gonna stick with playing ranked 5? Guess we might as well, until we get 500 ranked wins, which honestly, there's very little chance before I give up this game and move on to the Marvel game, which is my plan when it comes out in beta. Like, very little chance that I'm going to get all 9 of the hero classes up to 500 ranked wins after even 500, after over 5 years of playing the game. It's clear that that was really a number only reachable if you played this game as your only free-to-play game and you played it a ridiculous amount of times a day, or spent a ridiculous amount of time on it in general. So we don't have really any news either, and I don't really know why that is the case. It's not like we have another holiday going on. It just seems to be pretty slow, and it's weird because it feels like they were going to speed up on that stuff too, that we were getting out of the slow section, but either my What's on Steam Twitter account, it's not my account, it's the account I follow, I have no interaction with it other than that, either the What's on Steam Twitter account is messed up, or just nothing came out on Steam. Ridiculously low amount of accounts and things to talk about. Wow. So I have nothing to talk about at all, pretty much. Alright, well then we'll just mostly focus on playing Hearthstone. Because, yeah, I'm looking at maybe 20 things. And perhaps there's some way we could recover on this. And maybe we'll do a bit of an experiment here where we'll look at the popular or new games on Steam's website versus the What's on Steam feed, which the What's on Steam feed has, I think, a better ability to filter out people putting out demos or putting out things that aren't actually games.
We must stand together, united for Dalaran!
Okay.
Job's done.
Think we got it. So, we've got this game on Steam called Space Drone, which is just a shooter of some sort, although it seems to integrate something along the lines of maybe Zumba idea. It looks like there's the enemies you shoot are kind of like magnetic mines, and they will connect to each other, and when they match like 3, that makes them explode. It really does look like it's taken the concept of Zumba and added a space shooter element to it. Although the camera is not zoomed out enough really for this level of challenge, frankly. And apparently it's not just you can get it's not 3 matches and it explodes. It's something else along that line. It's probably just an infinite number of matches, but you can you can
You call that magic?
do some other things to it also. You have to shoot this, so like there's 4 reds here, you have to shoot it and then all the reds will disappear. This is early access for 84 cents, English only. It's not zoomed out enough or that interesting of a game. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the store home, and this will be interesting to not be logged into Steam and see what the recommendations are or the sales are. We will be talking about this new Steam Labs also. I don't know if it was in this game yet, but there's some new sliders that I think are in Steam Labs particularly that would let you sort your games a little bit differently. It doesn't seem like it's just by default enabled. So here's your standard Steam storefront top tier games. These are the games that actually are getting promoted by Valve, and then you have your special offers, which Deader School, which was the game that's half a lewd game and half a zombie slasher, came out of early access at some point and is immediately on sale, which is alright. Interesting, to say the least. Octopath Traveler. So take note, this is on sale for $10. There are better games that are also on sale, such as Slime Rancher for $10. Age of Wonders 3 is free right now. Rocket League is free. I would suggest getting Rocket League probably before it leaves for the Epic Store, which is what it seems like. And then what I guess I could do as a backup is I could browse new releases. And then the question would be, do you look at popular new releases? If I did that, it would just be new releases that everybody's already heard of. Oops. If I'd been paying more attention, I would have played that a lot better. So we would have to go through this new releases, but then you have games like this, Astro, which isn't actually out yet and doesn't have a price or a tag. So I'd have to go through this. We'd run into things like this called Love, 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 which seems to have come out, but is probably a very cheap visual novel. I think the What's on Steam app has never been 100% accurate on the releases of games, but there might also be a reason. Yeah, we could go through this if we wanted to and skip all the ones that don't actually have price tags. And Minotaur is like a game that's not out yet. This is the particular list that we're looking at right now that that people manipulate way more then they should be allowed to.
Time runs out on me.
Yeah. And I could just, I guess, scroll down this list and see what catches my attention. What would be interesting is how far down I'd even have to go before I saw something that I recognized. Because there's a ton of games here I don't recognize. But it's certainly difficult to, when they don't have a price tag, to filter them out. And then you have things like Earth Defense Forces 5, which is just going to flood the market with DLC. And so you probably would want to filter out the DLC stuff. Let's see. Make Better Together. I remember that game. So this is the first game I've seen that I know we looked at, so it would be, even from this perspective, if we were to go through all of these games, it would just be a large collection of games that probably don't really deserve any comment on. Most of the games we cover through the What's on Steam Twitter feed are also not worth commenting on, but there's a level of interest there that it's doable. It's understandable that I cover the What's on Steam feed. It's not really doable to try and cover every game that comes out. So there is some randomization, not actual curation, going on the games we talked about, which is fine, because frankly it would just be more and more a case of me being irritated at more garbage. Alright. Destroy that. And destroy that. And then draw 3 cards.
Arena's full. Beat.
Well, that was a lucky draw. So, alright. Through the standard feed, we have a game on Steam called Underture, which looks like it is a VR music video, for lack of a better term. Seems like you're in this asset flip subway and you have somebody playing an accordion, which is an odd choice for a musical instrument, but that seems to be all that is. There was a Netflix like 15-minute musical interlude where it was a lot of people doing these artistic kind of music. Feels like they hired a dance group and played 3 to 4 songs over it, and they weren't really interesting or good songs as far as I could tell. I'm not an expert on music, particularly not video game music by any means, but I just found the whole thing pretentious and annoying, for lack of a better term. So yeah, I was not intrigued in any way by it. Alright, so we gotta do this. And then we gotta do this.
Job done.
And then that means I lose the game. I just lost. Alright. Well, we're playing cards at least. We're playing cards. Because he can just attack me. I needed this in my hand to begin with, so I could have done that had I played this earlier and even gotten one fireball.
Unity, precision, perfection.
So, yeah. Underture is a free VR game, so the price is right, I guess. But is that, if that really even is where VR games are going to go, it would make a lot more sense to do that on a cell phone VR app. I know the whole YouTube 360, YouTube VR thing, and the Oculus, the really cheap Oculus, or Google Oculus, what was it called? Google, it wasn't Google Goggles, that's the name of an app. But the idea of putting a cell phone in a cheap thing, maybe it was a Samsung thing, and turning that into a little bit of a VR headset makes a lot more sense if you're getting, if the vast majority of everything that's going to be sold or given away for VR is going to be small things. It also is kind of ridiculous to think that anything is ever going to bring back the music video, and in a lot of ways making VR music videos does sound and feel like a desperate attempt from music production companies to bring back music videos, which, yeah, that's just never going to happen. See, I don't have an elemental, so just do that. MTV basically created a music video which very arguably destroyed the music industry as far as it actually being an art around the idea of making good music and sound. And now music videos are built around, we've got to get some kind of teenager to sing a bunch of flashy pop songs, or some country western hunk to sing country western songs, or some well, I don't know, yeah, some like rapper or a female artist to sing songs. It's all about the singer looking pretty, and then they just can be auto-tuned nowadays into something that is what has been a lowered expectations as far as the actual sound and singing. Cher, I guess, deserves a lot of blame for that in both factors. Like Madonna and Cher and such, once they started music videos, once you started seeing them doing dance steps and antics and crazy fashion and scantily clad clothing, all of that conspired to stop people who were good at actually making musical sound from being acceptable people to exist at all in the music industry. And yeah, I guess Elvis in part had some of that too, in the Beatles and all of that. So there's always been some of that, but it really began the end of the music industry, and the music industry is really just this cesspool of corruption and deadness. So you can only really appreciate the indies, and unfortunately for YouTube has rubbed elbows with the likes of the Universal Music Group, instead of realizing, hey, actually we could just have a bunch of indie people writing their own songs and support them and be a platform for new exciting independent music, and that would have been a much better position for YouTube in general, instead of allowing the content ID system to devolve into a bully system in which UMG can claim they own every sound that exists in the universe, because every sound in the universe is theoretically sampling their songs, or at least that's the argument they seem to make.
Arena's full. Beat it. The future is
I played that out of order. I should have played that first. So, yeah. I don't even know what got me on that idea. Yeah. Yeah. I would much prefer to see a lot more indie music come out, and if indie people were gonna make VR music videos, I think that's a waste of time too. Like, so the reason I'm talking about any of this is because of VR, the idea of VR music videos, and it's just not gonna work. It's just not worth it. But it is something I imagine that the big music industry will try to do. That will be the case. Meanwhile, if you are a fan of like Hatsune Miku and Vocaloid, there was a revolutionary technology in that has been embraced by that counterculture or a niche culture that allows people who are not particularly the best at they don't look as interesting, or they're not the best at dancing or anything, but they can program. Yeah, with Vocaloid, I don't even think you really have to sing. So if you can just know what sounds good and program Hatsune Miku or one of the other Vocaloid characters to sing the songs, you can be a good songwriter, if not a singer. And it really is the songwriters that have all the power in the music industry, because almost all pop people are just getting fed their music. It's kept very secret, but yeah, most people are not writing. Most of these teenagers are not writing their songs. Not really. They might be giving input, and some of that input might be actually listened to, but not.
Arena's full.
They're not doing it. Let's see. That'd be nice if I could play that. Probably should have played this too, so I got 2 spell cards back. Let's see.
Unity, precision, perfection.
Oh, I'm losing rank at this point, so play a tavern brawl 3 times. Darn it. Alright, well, that'll give us something more to do, I guess. And I'm tired of playing the mage, so we'll play the shaman. I guess we'll just let all of these pile up till August. There's really no reason to open a pack right now. This stupid challenge. It's driven me crazy. RetroArch / Libretro has updated their website, and so now the website looks a little bit different, more interesting. I think RetroArch is coming to Steam this month, So that means, if I'm understanding this right, that you will just have that a application that auto updates, and one would hope that the cores are kind of like DLC and they auto update also. I'm a little surprised that nobody's given them any complaints about that, but I'm not super surprised. Nobody cares. Because it would be mostly Nintendo that would complain about a emulator platform being on Steam storefront, but Nintendo's not on Steam, so why would Valve listen to them? RetroArch is also developing a touchscreen light gun for iOS and Android, so that you can play things like Duck Hunter by tapping on the screens. It's still not really going to feel like Duck Hunter now. There's been several little works in progress, and they've been making a lot of announcements. So it's been a busy time for RetroArch in general. And we'll talk more about the Steam, it coming to Steam in detail, but I didn't have that article right next to it. I suppose I could have spent some extra time and
Back to work.
curated and moved some articles around, but there's so little to talk about anyways. Right. What are we looking for here? Next, we have a game on Steam called Endless RPG. This seems like this is a simplistic RPG game. Probably not even a real game. It feels like it's just the beginning concept of a game. I guess I have to applaud that it probably isn't made in RPG Maker, although if it was, you could definitely make this game in RPG Maker with just custom art. I don't think there's anything that actually stops you from using custom art in RPG Maker. $7.19 English only for this uninteresting RPG. Yeah, when you see something like that and you compare it to EverQuest, or when you compare it to a standard JRPG of any note, what does this one do? Transform a friendly minion in one that costs one more. Alright.
Back to the void. Accidents, they happen, you know.
Okay. And apparently you can just keep on using evolution as often as you want. Yeah. I forgot what I was talking about, but I kind of remember it's kind of an interesting, important statement I was about to make. Yeah, I was talking about JRPGs. Like, when you look at Final Fantasy compared to something like Endless RPG, there's no comparison. Final Fantasy 15, for instance. No comparison whatsoever. If you compare it to even Final Fantasy 3, though, it's still not really a comparison. It's still way better. Let's take this victory and move on. If you compare it to the JRPGs that are more 2D and lesser known, like Disgaea, it's no comparison. My point being here is that a simplistic pixel graphics RPG is entering a field that has been flooded with way better RPGs. So there's no reason for these games to still be made in the quantity that they're being made. If you can't do something that breaks the mold, then you're going to just be immediately ignored and forgotten in the RPG element. Whereas if you were to make a fighting game and it was a mediocre fighting game, it probably would find a niche audience. If you were to make a point-and-click adventure, I'm a huge sucker for point-and-click adventures, and I think most people who play point-and-click adventures are big suckers and will play pretty bad games. So there's some. There's definitely other types of games you can make. It's been a very bad mistake, in my opinion, that RPG Maker was created. Like, I mean, nobody's in charge. Nobody can say it's not allowed to exist, although one could certainly have pressured them to not be on the
Job's done.
On the Steam storefront, which I think encourages a lot of people to make these terrible games. But I guess maybe the best disinfectant is sunshine. So if Unity was not its own store but had links directly on Valve and was promoted, and see, that would be the ultimate genius move, is it if Unity signed a deal with Valve and the Unity engine was available through the Steam launcher, and Valve allowed people to go to the Unity store and purchase assets directly then we would just have a bunch of Unity asset flip games on Steam, which we already have, instead of a bunch of RPG Maker things. But at the very least, if there are kids out there that want to make video games, they are actually educating themselves on what is a industry standard programming language when they're using Unity. You're not really educating yourself on an industry standard software if you're using RPG Maker. So yeah, that probably is the only way you would fix something like that, is to offer better options so that we get better games. Alright. Well, Battlecry freeze, give that one +3. I could silence a minion and deal 1 damage to it on this guy, and then I could just transform this one up. I'll do that. We had some interesting tweets, kind of slightly contradictory or differently focused tweets from the YouTube advertisers Twitter feed, and then YouTube creators Twitter feed. So here's the tweet from 2 hours ago from the YouTube advertisers at YT advertisers. Transparency, upfront communication, and letting me have creative control are key when I work with brands, says Christopher London, a YouTube creator who was at VidCon US. So VidCon's going on right now. It's kind of a cruel thing to say, and this is just like, I think you're probably not much of a good creator and pretty much just a loser if you are. I could have won. Interesting. Yeah, I think you're kind of a loser if you're going to VidCon. I can't say it any other way. That's pretty much my feeling of it.
Job's done.
And the reason why I think content creators on YouTube really shouldn't go to VidCon is because it feeds into an ego you don't need to feed. It puts a bunch of people who are content creators talking to a bunch of other people who are content creators, where they're going to fall into groupthink. I would say that the YouTube community in particular is best suited by being a fiercely competitive community. That was certainly what it was in the old days, where you were able to do replies and like comments and disagree with other people's videos if they're that type of opinion videos. Personally, as a video game critic, if I was put in a room with a bunch of other video game content creators, I'd go, okay, yeah, you guys do what you want to do. That's your style. I'm not going to pick up or learn anything from you, though. Because I really didn't personally get into making YouTube content to change how I was going to do things. This is an old man statement I'm making right here. I didn't get into this job to change or learn or do anything different or improve in any way, but it kind of is true. Like, that if you're an artist, you want to make art the way you want to make it, because art is inherently a personal expression of yourself. If you're not effectively expressing yourself and your own personal artistic vision, and you're just doing cookie cutter videos, or if you're just making your videos to look like Captain Sparkle videos or PewDiePie videos, and you're just in it for the money, then I think your audience will eventually catch on to that, and your channel will suffer because of it, and your content will suffer. I would rather be a starving artist and be genuine than be a sellout, basically, and be successful on YouTube for some brief time, particularly on YouTube since it's so flippant. Now, I was thinking last night, and I'm going off on tangents here because there's not much to talk about. There is this case we have started to see a lot of, where YouTube has created a lot of its own competition over the course of the last couple years. And what they did, and how they did this to create their own competition, was they paid people like Rhett and Link to make YouTube Red content. They picked winners and losers, and they started giving money into it. And before that happened, though, there had already been this underground problem on YouTube, where there was a considerable amount of people that were pretending like they were these small they were pretending to be small indie companies. Like Rhett and Link was certainly pretending to be a small indie company. The Geek and Sundry was pretending to be a small indie company. College Humor was sort of pretending to be a small indie company, although it probably was pretty obvious that wasn't the case. All of those companies, though, really had investors and a corporation behind them, if not entire production companies behind it. Geek and Sundry, I believe, was completely funded by like Lionsgate. So, and I've talked about this before in part, but so there had been this growing issue where all of the big successful channels on YouTube were only getting successful because people were pouring a ton of money into the development of them, one would assume. And that allowed this situation to where the rich got richer and everybody else got fewer and fewer scraps. Instead of naturally having the recommendation algorithm on YouTube just suggest videos based on popularity, and YouTube continued to promote the biggest of the big videos to the point that they eventually just were straight up paying those big creators like Rhett and Link and PewDiePie, would scare PewDiePie until PewDiePie was no longer popular or in the eyes of YouTube. So you have had always this situation where the trending page, except for the now live trending page, which was always a mess and was showing you random things, the trending page has always been this highly curated experience that led to you not seeing any channel. And you still see it today. If you look at the trending page one day, it'll be the same 20 or 30 channels that you will always see over and over again. But because YouTube paid some of these people to make content for YouTube Red, and now YouTube Red has kind of failed, what you're starting to see is those same big YouTubers like Rhett and Link now are not showing any real loyalty, and they really shouldn't be showing any loyalty to YouTube. And we've started to see several of these instances where you have College Humor creating this website. We're going back to websites that curate YouTube videos. So you have things like Dropout that is getting advertised like crazy on College Humor, and only fractions, little teasers of entire skits or videos are being shown. You have the Mythical Society from Good Mythical More, Rhett and Link, that being shown and advertised like crazy. There's quite a few others, I'm sure, that also exist, but you've created this situation where, yeah, I don't go to those websites, so I don't know who's actually hosting the video on Dropout, whether it's YouTube or whether it's Bitly or whether it's some other service completely. But the whole idea of YouTube was to create this ecosystem, and if that ecosystem is destroyed, and that we go back to there being 20 different websites that are you have to go to 5 different websites to see your daily 5 top videos. That's not the way people want to do things. So yeah, YouTube has definitely created a problem for itself, which is YouTube in a nutshell. They always make problems for themselves. But I also feel like this is going to create a situation that's going to be a problem in the longer run, because what a lot of these production companies, I suspect, will do, as I lose here, will just cancel College Humor or Rhett and Link. And you've kind of even seen that in the summer content on Good Mythical More, where Rhett and Link are not even the main characters in the shows, and they're doing all these side shows full of advertisements, baked in ads. They're not, yeah, they're baked in ads. That's interesting. Actually, College Humor in particular has baked in ads for Dropout, and that's supposedly a violation of YouTube's policy ad guidelines, but they're getting away with it for some reason.
Set for me.
Glory to the Sindori.
Yeah, that is actually quite strange. Although it is also monopolistic for YouTube to say you can't have baked-in ads in your videos. Baked-in ads being a pre-recorded advertisement that you just put in your videos without the characters, the person in that recording actually saying the ad and talking over it. It would be the difference between a talk radio show having the radio host read the ads versus a radio show just pushing play on a video on a tape where he would read the ads, have read the ads earlier. Why there is a big difference there, I don't know, but it certainly seems like it kind of is industry standard to not really approve of baked-in ads. And that's why you see so many like World of Tanks type ads that have the YouTuber actually read it out loud. I imagine baked-in ads don't really work very well either, but it really is, in the case of YouTube, just a case of YouTube is allowing itself to do something that the other content creators can't do.
Job's done.
Yeah, but that really doesn't have anything to do with people viewing, other than the experience of watching videos on YouTube is potentially getting worse and worse by the day due to YouTube not caring about creating a healthy, good environment for views. But we kind of saw that directly too, because we definitely haven't been having a good time, or I haven't been having a good time at least, with the double ad situation. I'm getting double ads like crazy. I don't have ad customization turned on, so that means I'm getting the same Harry Potter, or at least for almost a month I was getting the same Harry Potter ad over and over and over again, and you can't say don't show me this video unless you have ad customization on. If you're a YouTube content creator and you want to see what an average random person would see as ads, you can't have that on. Not that it really gives you any great major insight. Let's see, 12 minions, Warlock class. I think it's probably easier here to play this, and yeah, today would be the day that we would have played this anyways, but I think we're gonna end up having to play the Asian account too. Warlock. Do we have a Warlock? This is a Shaman. This is a Rogue. Paladin. Mage. No, we don't have a Warlock. So I am gonna have to play my regular Warlock deck. Alright, might as well play around. Gamma Sutra has an article here, if I can move off the rant. The controversial freelance firm Fiverr opens up a game services store. I wonder what this really means, though. Store advertises a mix of development and streaming focused services ranging from Unity to Unreal development to more fringe services like game coaching and setting up a Discord bots. Alright. Now, the only reason I think Fiverr is controversial is because that's where PewDiePie had a group of people from, I believe, Africa hold up a sign that was written in English. They didn't know what the sign actually said, and it was definitely an offensive phrase. I don't know why that immediately makes the entire concept of paying people about $5 to do small, simplistic tasks is that difficult. Fiverr opening up a game services store sounds like something that could be very useful for me, frankly. And a lot of content creators on YouTube. If I could pay somebody $5 to make a set number of thumbnails for my channel and art, that would be easier than hiring somebody for a short term. In the long run, you probably would want to have a more personal, direct relationship with your artist or developer and things like that. But sounds like there's something here. Although maybe that's not even the kind of services being offered. It says that user interface freelancers are offering their services for around $30, with Unity development services starting at less than $200.
This guy's toast.
Let's see. This is one of those articles from Gamma Sutra that really is doing some major editorializing and yellow journalism here, when it's like, quote, freelance marketplace, end quote, from Fiverr. There's no reason to put that in quote at all. That's just bad. And then mentioning down here, Fiverr has previously made headlines with the video game industry by being a platform that YouTube PewDiePie used to promote anti-Semitism. I don't think PewDiePie was in any way actually promoting anti-Semitism. I think he was goofing off and being silly. And that, again, is a matter of opinion that is being put in something that could have been just an easy, simplistic article to say, hey, Fiverr now is offering more game development services. What does this mean for the industry at whole? Does this the funny thing about this article too is you have barely 5 or 6 sentences until you get to this point, and then they start talking to the Game Workers Unite spokesman, who is still, to my opinion, not doing the right thing to actually make a union. And I could see how a bunch of freelancers coming in and undercutting game developers could be a huge problem, but you can't even start to protest that or say freelancers aren't allowed in these union shop video game companies until you have a union and make some union shop video game companies. So there's really no reason why they should be talking to the Game Workers Unite spokesman or talking about PewDiePie. So last 2 paragraphs, if you're going to call them paragraphs, of 6 paragraphs are completely off-topic statements that shouldn't have been added to the story. We see so many stories on video games in particular that are just incredibly short and just like 1 or 2 sentences long. There's no reason to add more when there isn't more to say. So here I wanted to show YouTube creators' Twitter feed, and they have a pinned tweet. We hear about copyright claims can be confusing, which is, it's not that they're confusing per se, it's that they're frustrating and invalid by most points. But that's not the tweet I wanted to compare. The tweet from 2 hours ago on YouTube Advertisers was talking about transparency and control to the creators, and that was being said. That was what some creator of VidCon was saying that they were getting from YouTube to advertisers. So that's speaking to advertisers. What they're telling creators is there are a lot of risks that pay off and a lot that don't. Let's see. Sharing why it's important to experiment with your online content. Slightly different message. It's never on the same page. They do seem to have announced things for people that are already in these kind of programs, like channel memberships and such, but it doesn't seem like there's too much other too much for small and new content creators. So these things here, channel membership levels, merch partners, super stickers, learning playlists. I wonder what learning playlist actually means. And fundraising with YouTube Giving are all interesting ideas, but if YouTube Giving, for instance, is taking a cut from YouTube, which I suspect it probably is, nobody should use it. And that's pretty much all I've heard out of VidCon. That's kind of the problem here. And meanwhile, while YouTube creators and YouTube advertisers was tweeting, Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube's not really retweeting any of these tweets and not really doing anything. So it kind of shows still that feeling that she doesn't really care what's going on YouTube. She's not involved. She's just too busy trying to hobnob and rub elbows with big celebrities. Which, by the way, like, we saw Will Smith, we saw The Rock, we saw a decent number of people that that were on supposedly going to start YouTube content making channels and really haven't. Even Jack Black and his little video game YouTube channel is an uninteresting, just nothing. It's clearly not really built around the idea of, I think it's more built around the idea of him hanging out with, I think, his son, and his son turning his son's channel into something successful than it is him playing video games. Also, it doesn't really make a lot of sense that Jack Black should be doing anything on YouTube, or The Rock or Will Smith. Like, they're more successful actors, so they should be out applying for more jobs and doing interviews and promoting their TV and movie roles. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Ubisoft puts the kibosh on Assassin's Creed XP farming exploit, which sucks, certainly. Ubisoft is changing how story creator mode works in Assassin's Creed Odyssey to prevent the spread of XP-laden farming quests. The problem there is that the only reason that there's any XP in Assassin's Creed Odyssey at all is because they want you to grind it out to the point of getting frustrating and buying the in-app purchases of XP boosts. So this was I don't think you call this an exploit, really. This is people were making story creator mode levels designed to give XP normally in a abbreviated function. And since you're getting screwed here, let's face it, that's exactly what's happening. I would be more leaning towards the thing of, you probably should just, like, pirate Assassin's Creed Odyssey in total if you want to play that game, and then put a mod on it since it's going to be some kind of cracked, pirated version anyways, so that you can get XP in a realistic fashion. And the irony here, of course, will be that this will eventually come to a point when there's a new Assassin's Creed game and everybody's forgotten about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. We will get to a point where they're going to put out something that speeds up the XP grind and makes it more of an experience worth actually playing, in the same way as we saw with the Shadow of Mordor game, and how they just put in gameplay mechanics designed around the idea of irritating the player into buying the microtransactions.
Sure, send the little guy.
Let's see. So not good news particularly, and not a good look for Ubisoft. The hope was that Ubisoft would have, you know, stopped being so evil, for lack of a better term. They stopped being so corporate greedy once they were out of the risk of being acquired by Vivendi or Viacom. I forget which one. I never remember which one it was. But yeah, that stopped happening. Instead of them going from, okay, we've got to get as much money as possible because we have to avoid getting overtaken, they're just keeping on the path of we've got to get as much money as possible. And then it brings back the thought, well, maybe Viacom, let's say that's the right name, should have acquired Ubisoft. Maybe we would have been better off as fans and people who wanted to play Vivendi or Assassin's Creed games. Maybe they would have been better off if Viacom had us acquired him. Let's see. And this.
Fortunate souls. Why me?
So, I mean, it is a what-if sentence for sure, and it probably isn't true, but I really would like to see these big companies either turn over a new leaf or, you know, just break them up. Like I tried to say and probably didn't explain very well, there's a limited number of jerks in the world to fill the positions of upper management. If we just broke up companies down to the point where they ran out of jerks to be the CEO, we would eventually have a few companies out there that weren't run by jerks. Or one would hope. One hopes that you aren't immediately appointed as a CEO and become a jerk. You might be, yeah. But it doesn't make a lot of sense in the video game industry, but a lot of other industries in particular, it does make a lot of sense to only allow very small mom and pop companies to exist. I'm watching 6 Feet Under instead of, that's basically what I did all yesterday instead of trying to go back to sleep. And funeral homes is a great example of there's no reason why anything in the supply chain of a funeral home should not be run by small mom and pop corporations. A lot of parts could easily be made. A lot of parts manufacturers are small time things. Parts for cars and motorcycles are small time companies, but they're only small time companies because there's always a major company that is controlling the industry. So you have the major manufacturers and assemblers of thousands of parts to put together to make a truck, and they're keeping anybody who could compete against them down and small, and that's the parts manufacturers. But then if car companies were broken up and every car company only could really afford to make one or maybe two models in total, that would be very interesting, certainly. Instead of there being maybe 4 or 5 worth mentioning car manufacturers in the world, if there was 20 different car manufacturers and they made just one model, that would be it. For instance, like if Ford could only make the F-150, if that's as big as their corporation could ever be, then there would be some other company like Ford that would make the 250, and there'd be little differences. And then there'd be some other company that would make the 350, and there'd be differences there. Or you, at the very least, would have limitations where you don't have like Kawasaki making motorcycles and I think lawnmower parts and engines for just a random selection of things. But yeah, it's hard to make that argument in the video game industry. If every video game company could only make one game per year, okay, that seems reasonable. But if a video game company took 12 years to make a game, that's not really reasonable. It already takes about 4 years to make a game, and so you have to have these huge different teams if you want to show any kind of profit every quarter. Although that's kind of inherently the problem with all of the stock public company concept in general, is that if you have to show a profit every quarter, you're immediately getting your hands tied behind your back. So yeah, just get rid of public ownership of things. Get rid of the stock market. That would solve a lot of problems and reduce a lot of risk. Everybody's retirement could just be bonds, government bonds, and you'd have a guaranteed amount you're going to get with zero risk at that point, or very low risk unless the government collapsed. Moving on, because I'm rambling, here's the LibRetro article. RetroArch is coming to Steam this month. As I kind of understand it, like, LibRetro is kind of the parent company of RetroArch, or the parent name over RetroArch. But I might be wrong about this. So this is coming to Steam, and seems like there's a link directly to it. It will be free. At the beginning, there won't be any differences between what you can get on Steam and what is available on our own website. As such, there are no Steamworks SDK functionality will be present at launch, and additional Steam features. However, after the initial launch, we will begin exploring options on how we can start leveraging Steam functions as a platform. So, here's some thoughts that I have on this, is that you almost certainly can't have the retro achievements integrate into Steam. Like, it would just be too many. Of the probably thousands and thousands of games that we could put retro achievements in, you wouldn't be able to then say that would be an achievement on the Steam thing. I imagine RetroArch is not going to have trading cards, because that would be weird. Although I guess it might be a revenue source for them. And I kind of question what else you do with that, frankly. Like, the big benefit of RetroArch being on Steam is that it will just constantly update and you don't have to download it over and over again. Every single one of these things, these images, they're going to have to be extremely careful about not violating copyright, because even here I'm seeing pictures of, there was like Mario Kart, so immediately I saw a screenshot in the back of Mario Kart. They probably need to change that video. Whatever this is from is possibly copyrighted. This looks like Minecraft. I don't know how RetroArch would even. Oh, I guess there is a core that plays Minecraft, isn't it? It's like specific Minecraft core. So all of these need to be like open source games and pictures. It needs to be really careful here. It's free to play from LibRetro. I don't think you're gonna get anything else here though. I don't know what the SDK or what kind of mod you could put on it from Steam side that you wouldn't want to just submit as something that could just be built into RetroArch in general. Remember that a large percentage of people who are going to be using RetroArch are doing it on a Raspberry Pi through RetroPie. And the RetroPie versions are not particularly the newest versions, always. I could do this, or I could do this. So yeah, it is something that I guess I'll add to my wish list, and I'll have it just as a simple thing. Does this in any way really does RetroArch being on Steam really add anything that defeats like the Epic launcher or the Ubisoft Uplay launcher or anything like that? No, not really. It could be a case that perhaps some low-end effort might be put into yeah, say you were Sega and you didn't really want to make your own program or front end, but you wanted to sell the ROMs yet again of old Sega games. You could probably just put those ROMs as DLC to RetroArch and then put it in that way and just double up on your profits. There might be something logical to moving that way. But I also feel like if RetroArch did end up being like Train Simulator 2019, which has hundreds and hundreds of bits of DLC that are like in total worth over $1,000, I think that would really just flood Steam and add confusion. And there is, I guess, a emotional danger here that this might be the end of RetroArch's development. If they feel like that if they're not going onward and upward, and they're just saying, we've done as much as needs to be done for this, and there's really nothing more we can add to the mix, this might be the beginning of the end of RetroArch. Let's see. This. And this. And I'm going to place this. Alright.
Toil and trouble!
this. And there we go. So yeah, there is a danger certainly of this being the beginning of the end. Alright, now we need to play the Tavern Brawl. We didn't play enough Warlock cards though, so we're gonna have to come back. And it's the weekend, so I kinda need to get everything done. But you know, I think we're gonna probably end up I'm gonna end up playing off screen a little bit anyways. Things that cost 8 or more. I don't know if I'm gonna run into anything that costs 8 or more in this Tavern Brawl. The good news is I only have to win or play 4 games, I think. The bad news is that's not likely to happen easily. Game of Sutra has an article here. Under fire from game devs, which GTA has been kind of consistently under fire from game devs. GTA proposes a new key blocker tool to give devs more control on how some of their titles are resold. It would be a good move, but depending on how the tool actually worked and how fast it worked would determine how useful it is, or how easy it is to use determines how useful it is. Here, if we skip down to the bottom of this article without really reading it, we says G2A claims the creation of such a tool would be time-consuming and expensive. Although it has pledged to cover the cost of development, it will only begin work if over 100 developers express their interest within the next month, which, sure, somebody can almost certainly call their bluff and get 100 devs to express their interest, but I could also see people expressing a disinterest in dealing with GTA.
Seriously? Hey, running into a mountain isn't an art. It's a job done.
So yeah.
One shot, one kill.
There's still issues. It's definitely still issues going on with G2A and the way they run their business. The fact that G2A is specifically getting singled out shows that they have lost the battle for hearts and minds of the video game industry, and they should just probably shut down, make a sister site, and then use that sister site to be the new main site. There we go. This is a rather nice start. Game of Sutra has an article here. Steam Labs is Valve's new home for experimental Steam features. Basically, as I understand this, Steam in the past has been doing these secret experiments for Steam, the storefront. And they've been kind of opt-in things that you weren't really invited to. You had to be invited into it, and they weren't really made available to the general public. And quite often there was no accountability, and quite often these secret projects were started and then canceled. This is an instance of all of a sudden Valve wanting some accountability and wanting to be held accountable by just general people using the Steam tools. Now, does this inherently mean that they want to be held accountable for the development of games? I don't think so, no. But it seems like somebody has taken the spearhead or that's probably not a real phrase. They've spearheaded a new policy for Steam itself. I suspect, if I was to guess, this is in part a reaction or a planned announcement after the Steam Summer Sale. When you look at how terrible the Steam Summer Sale went, it would make a lot of sense for them to kind of experiment with things outside of times of sales. One, two, here. And then, let's see. I think we're good to just end it there. So, so the main things that they have to show off, and I'm hoping are, there's an interactive recommender, and I'm going to just try and open each of these links. There is the interactive recommender, hopefully we can show off, lets you kind of change how the recommendations go. There's micro trailers, which are kind of a video to get you interested in potential new games. And then there's an automated show that I think is the concept of taking several micro trailers and turning it into like a 6-screen picture out of picture layout. So let's come over here and play.
How much is this worth to you?
Play this. Play this. I guess last turn I could have drawn a card. That would have worked better. Right. So it wants me to sign into Steam. So I'm just gonna sign into Steam real quickly. Which of course means I need to use the authenticator, two-factor authentication, which you should be using on Steam. Let's see, is it? I think it's under S for Steam. Yep. Steam Guard, as it was. And the rope is never going to happen because we are playing a single player. Alright, was the steal for the damage to minion? We don't need that. Do full damage to all enemy minions? We don't need that. Change a minion's attack to 1. We can't do anything with that. We're playing too well. So I'm just gonna play this to use coins. Alright, so here's the Steam Interactive Recommender. So here we have games and my playtime. My highest playtime by far is Time Clickers. And then, well, my third highest is Warcraft, and my second highest is Borderlands 2. All that makes really sense. If I exclude wishlist games, this will just list games that I haven't heard of. And the oldest you can look at is 10 years ago when they were released. And you can swing between being popular and niche. So, if we were to say, what is the most popular game that is not on my wish list, it is Deponia, based on my recommendations. What is the most niche game that's not on my list is a game called Stick It to the Man. Let's actually look at what that game looks like. If I was to drag this from 10 years, it seems to jump from 10 years to 5 years. Let's come over here and play. For a moment. Go ahead and win here. Now, one of the things about this interactive recommender that they're saying they're using machine learning to recommend this. Machine learning never really means what it sounds like it means. It's really just points of data and clouds of predetermined recommendations based on specific factors. So basically, everybody who's played Time Clicker the most will get a recommendation based on that, and that cloud, that circle of people, the recommendation based on Time Clickers, then is overlapped with the number of people that would get recommendations based on Borderlands 2. It gets overlapped with this, it gets overlapped with that, and you just get this big overlapping amount of circles, and that's used to determine the decisions that are being made. And inherently it will be weighted in some different factors, like how many people actually played this game at Tale of Chaos Overture from 5 years ago. This could be useful, but I see it kind of already feels like it has some flaws, because you jump from 5 years to 3 years, and you don't have really any real control of that, and then you jump to from 3 years to 2 years, which brings you to Scheming Through the Zombie Apocalypse, which is a game I considered playing and may even be on the follow list. And then it'll eventually get to 1 year. There is more nuance here, but it just says 1 year, so you can't really type in a specific date, and that would be a lot more helpful. So Chalk and Sausage Walk the Plank, that's another game I've considered. And as we get closer to the earlier games, these are all games I've mostly seen as far as niche games. And if you wanted to integrate more popularity, you can see this match percentages going down. So like the most popular game that's brand new is called Coloring Game, which like I could see why that's slightly popular, but not really. And if we move, we'll just move back, then you have Graveyard Keeper from a year ago, which I could see why that was popular. And then you start moving back further, then you have Realm Royale as the next popular game. I could have even opened that one. And as we move back further, you have Paladins. And as we move back further, you have Don't Starve Together. And then you have Deponia. And it doesn't seem like there's any way to curate what games are being mentioned here. And a lot of these are instances of games that have been counted, but there's been a lot of games I think that haven't been counted either, because it seems like it's filtered by my playtime, which my playtime, when you see 120 hours on Dead Space, I didn't spend 120 hours on Dead Space, or 100 hours on Hitman. I don't even recall playing Hitman, or 100 hours on that, or 100 hours on this. It's just because I left the game running and went to sleep. That's the real reason why this playtime. So inherently this is not going to be anything super useful for me, and if I was to include things that are on my wish list, it's like, yeah, you should get the Batman games and the Witcher 3 and the South Park game, which I really can cover, or Cuphead. Yeah, these are all games that would be perfectly fine for me to get, and I'd be very happy if people gifted me these games to help support my channel, but there's nothing special about those games in particular, so even on this, I really should be looking at games that are niche, because that's where my channel thrives, and I like to play niche games. So there's a little bit of information I can get from this. It's better than what the Discovery 2.0 has been offering, I think, somewhat. Let's get back to actually playing Hearthstone here, though, because we've got more of that to happen. Am I going to play anything that would be spell damage related? So, yeah. Slightly interesting. Slightly interesting. If we look at these games that I opened, we have a game here called Stick It to the Man, which looks like a platformer game where you, I don't know, looks, if the video shows me something, I think I could be slightly interested in this. Feels a lot like Psychonauts. It feels like it's kind of a point-and-click adventure game. I did see a YouTuber that was covering some games that caught my attention. Oh, by the way, the Final Fantasy Remake, no intention for anything other than a PlayStation relaunch. Well, this game is very positive. It's $7.99, single player, English full audio. There's no reason why this shouldn't be on my wish list, and really, in this case, it would just go straight to the wish list. I just overlooked it, clearly. Yeah. I don't think too many people really thought there was much of a chance of the game,
How much is this worth to you?
the Final Fantasy VII Remake, being on other platforms. I think you would have been joking yourself if that was the case. But it certainly can. I can understand why you wouldn't want. You would be a little upset to have it said out loud. Square Enix, in particular, has been in development of the Final Fantasy Remake for so long. There's no way that they could move it over to the Switch or the Xbox easily for how long it's been in development, and they'll probably be the very last of the last of people to abandon supporting Sony PlayStation. I imagine. Yeah, I can imagine Square Enix will stick with Sony PlayStation for as long as is reasonable. there's... Yeah, I'm getting some news from some other sources that I'm just remembering off the top of my head, which is in part why I don't have an article to mention that. One of the devs of the Shanti games released a game on Google's Play Store, and they told him that because the cartoon character had cleavage in her artwork on the storefront, it violated their policy. And I think he took it the wrong way. I think inherently because this is probably a miscommunication on Google's part. They probably don't have someone that's writing this the right way, because if they told them it's fine that you can have a character that is wearing she's just wearing a regular halter top and it's not a significant amount of cleavage, and the art style is like is a very flat comic book sharp edges art style, so it's not the standard anime like huge cleavage or anything like that. It was just cleavage of a normally proportioned character. I think what they were saying is they didn't want it on their storefront. They want their storefront to be painfully family friendly, and I get that. I've said that exact same thing on Steam, is that I'm perfectly happy with adult games with full hardcore pornography in them, but on the storefront, even if you're clicking through an 18 plus age gate, I don't want to be bombarded with uncensored like images on the storefront.
King Togwaggle.
And I think that's the difference, because there's a big difference between changing the art for Google, because really you could just put a box going "too hot for Google" over it, and Google probably doesn't care. But this is also an example of how the Google Play Store is not really in the shape to deal with video game producers in the same way that Sony's new California offices are not really in the shape to deal with video game producers, and that's going to be a consistent problem that they need to figure out a way to, I don't even know really how to say it, to have better relations with game producers, and they're not having that. So that bit of news was from Censored Gaming's YouTube channel. They're gonna start doing Censored Gaming news, where, like, I think once a week would probably be the right amount. They're going to start putting out little snippets of news, which is what they've been doing as individual videos for a while, but now it's going to be like, here's a week's worth of little snippets of information that have come out, just like that. Yeah, I've lost. There's no way to win here. You can do this, and that'll do 1 damage. You can do this. You can do this. And that's all I can do. The other game that was recommended was called A Tale of Chaos Overture. And you can see this came out in 2016, and it's mixed reviewed as a point and click. So while it is a niche point and click adventure, I know there's been a lot of point and click adventure games out there, and in general even some of the best ones don't play very well these days. I think I might be losing my taste for point and click adventure games. This does not look animated particularly well. I don't mind if you want to try to make a blue skinned character, but then you have to be able to actually draw and not make it look like it's drawn out of market using markers. And this character is so well better defined than any other character, it makes me suspect that this is an asset flip or stolen art. Yeah, so this is not the kind of game that should be on the follow list. And the standard Discovery 2.0 says it's similar to Anna's Quest, which is a game I liked, but that ended on a bad note, like all the Deponia games. It's not a Deponia games. It's a Daedalic game. Daedalic's the name of the company. So this one is a dud, and I guess there's no real way to solve that. Like, you kind of can't have a situation where you really can't have a situation where it's going to be able to recommend me in particular hundreds upon hundreds of amazing games that I've never heard of before. If the new interactive discovery app could really do that, that would mean that there's this secret underground of games that exists, and I would be completely oblivious to it, and I don't believe that's the case. Like, that'd be ridiculous. Not unless I went into a coma for a decade would there be a situation where I would be so unaware of what's going on in the video game universe. Even when I was not really playing video games, I was around enough people and there was enough news happening where people were talking about video games.
Did someone say bomb?
So there definitely are some blind spots, but there aren't you couldn't make a list of 100 games I haven't heard of that I should have heard of. But that's particularly me as a video game critic. A lot of other people, that very well may be the case. Particularly if you don't have a highly curated wish list, which I very possibly have the most curated wish list on Steam possible. The next game that was recommended is a game called Coloring Game, which is overwhelmingly positive with quite a few reviews, so apparently people like it. It doesn't look terrible, but it is kind of a color by number experience where you're just dragging the mouse around. And if you were playing this on a touch screen, I don't think you'd have a much better experience. It's free to play, and I guess that's the case. It's got $15 of DLC, and I imagine it will just keep on adding DLC and adding images. So yeah, this feels like a game that kids would like to play, but they probably shouldn't. The part of the point of kids coloring is the fact that they're learning and improving their hand-eye coordination, and so it should always be a physical activity and not something that's digitized.
Ready to flee.
Here's Graveyard Keeper. I thought Graveyard Keeper was on my wish list, but apparently it isn't. There is something about the Stardew Valley-ness of Graveyard Keeper that probably makes me not want to really play it. But I think I'm willing to put it back on the follow list because people seem to be enjoying it. But yeah, there is definitely a Stardew Valley aspect to this, and yeah, that's why it wasn't on the follow list. It's because I just had such a bad experience and did not enjoy Stardew Valley. So yeah, normally normal people should play Graveyard Keeper, but if you're like me and you didn't enjoy Stardew Valley, that would be your reason for not having it on a wish list or a follow list. Jeez, 3 animations on top of each other. Battlecry minions and warlock cards and such. And no treasures, so I'm just gonna hit back here. So let's play those warlock cards now. Here was another game the interactive application caught my attention on. Experience 112 or 112 seems to be a point-and-click adventure game that's mixed. Came out in 2007. So do I want to play a 2007 old game that looks like you're controlling the cameras and the doors and things like that, and you're not even really controlling the character? Probably not. There's at least 2 or 3 games on my wish list that are better versions of this concept. But it is interesting. If I got deep down the well of point-and-click adventure games where you're monitoring, managing, and searching but from behind a camera, then I might come back to something like this. Frankly, though, the interactive suggester, as it is right now, probably needs several more sliders, and it needs a better split between popular and niche. Like, because I think niche, the phrase niche is the wrong phrase there. But if this interactive suggester got better, that would certainly be interesting, and I think there's something to that. Particularly if once I've run out of games, which I probably would never run out of games on Steam. There's just so many of them. So the next Steam Labs thing, and we're spending a lot of time on Steam Labs because, again, no games came out, are micro trailers. Well, if you could absorb every game on Steam in just moments. So, classic micro trailers. So here we go. I kind of want to see the visual novels micro trailers. Let's see, but let's go with just popular new games for a second. So it seems like they're not all going to play at the same time. So you have Bloodstained, which is just taking, I think, the videos that it's doing the YouTube thing that YouTube introduced about a year ago, where it's taking the most watched the most watched points in the longer trailers on the videos and cutting on the store pages and cutting it down into like 6-second micro trailers. So yeah, it's just really jump cut, jump cut, jump cut, jump cut, jump cut, jump cut, jump cut. Which for Bloodstained, it shows some of the trailer that is live action, which is not that helpful compared to actual gameplay. Whereas here, the Spider-Man VR game that's an ad for Far From Home, it's just going to show flying around. Whereas this is just going to show people attacking each other in Underlords. And this is that visual novel game. I would have thought the idea is all of these would start playing without you having to hover over it. You can see Tales from Vesperia here is just going to show the loading animations, and you're going to get very different, inaccurate depiction of how this goes. What's this poker game? And you're definitely gonna get some variety here. You've got like the Five Nights at Freddy's issue and Monster Hunter, and then like horror games. So maybe there's something to this or not, but it kind of doesn't quite work. But it might work for visual people a lot more than, let's say, than just getting a single still screenshot. And I could see them eventually replacing all still screenshots on the storefront with moving micro trailers, or something that just doesn't cycle through still screenshots. Now what's interesting here, when I looked at the visual novels, is it's playing the entire row instead of just one. So you have here a furry dating game, you have a standard anime game, and you have over here a oddly animated visual novel. And if we scroll over here and scroll down enough, we will probably run into something that shows some amount of lewdness. Here's even a live action, I think, Chinese one. So they're experimenting for sure. Let's come over here and play. So there's classic micro trailers, play the entire row, and then there's scroll to play. So here's some RPGs, and it's just like as you scroll down, more load up, and you can see there's some major garbage showing up in this instance. As you scroll, it's still only really showing you a row, though. It's rather hard to line it up to get all 6 videos to play. But this is kind of what I would expect, and I would also expect that after it plays it, maybe it plays it really quickly and it's 6 seconds. I think they're 6 seconds long. I'd expect it to change to another micro trailer at that point, because I would want this just playing at all times, and just like, oh, what's that? Let me click on that. Oh, that changed to something more interesting? Good, let's click on that. Having to scroll down is a mess. Of course, this is all going to cost you a ton in bandwidth to do things like this. And then here we have Rock, Paper, Shotgun, PC Gamer, or popular new games. Let's look at the Big Quad. So the Big Quad instead shows 4 videos for Battlegrounds 3. And I believe Steam used this in the award show they did last, where it's showing like 4 micro trailers in total, and it has some slightly better transitions. Let's see, if we scroll up and then scroll back down, it doesn't. Yeah, it kind of does. It cycles out in a transition and cycles back in. Of course, it gets confusing when you look at a game that has quad screen in the first place, or split screens. This is slightly less interesting unless you were watching live gameplay, because I could see watching League of Legends or Dota Underlords and getting different angles or different perspectives. And I would say this Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is really showing the same micro trailer. It's just broken up the micro trailer a little bit more. So you have the live action section here where he's torturing his previous artist, because people didn't like the art of Bloodstained originally. And then you have some gameplay here, and you have a cutscene here, and a boss fight here.
Stop copying me! Stop copying me!
Darn it. So is there anything more that they have to show? No. So I could see how micro trailers is experiment 01. So what was the interactive recommender? It's not labeled as an experiment 00, so it's not labeled as an experiment 02 either, so who knows what's going on with that. So the game that I clicked on was called Poker Stars VR, and it's in early access, but it's very well received. Although I find it questionable, why should a poker game be in early access, and why should a free-to-play poker game require VR? I guess if you did have VR, this might make some sense. So maybe I should put it on the fall list for that reason. No, I don't really think so. I think the last thing I would want is to have a heavy headset on my head while I'm trying to play poker. That doesn't sound intelligent. Sounds like it would be distracting. Well, I guess the interactive recommender is experiment 02 because this is experiment 03, and we can see that this is the automatic show, which we can just hit play. This is 24 minutes and 56 seconds, and what I think it is going to do is just auto-generate the big 4 quad micro trailers and tell you what's playing with the stationary thumbnail, which is actually very helpful. And they plan on auto-generating this every day, I believe. Let's see. So yeah, July 10th we'll have a different show. But this isn't really going to work. And if I followed Steam on YouTube, if they had like a YouTube channel, no way would I watch 25 minutes a day of this. And it's not a particularly easily skippable section, because you're just going to have to jump forward. And when I jumped forward, it took until the next load for them to say what game I'm on. So here we're playing, this is Raft, and it's not until it switches to the next game that it moves there. So there's a level of major curation that they would have to do to bring this down. And there's a peek behind the scenes that's a minute and 30 seconds.
Did you?
Yeah, you're gonna have to really curate or break it down by category or something like that. But if people were to really watch this, I can definitely see why this is an experiment, though. It's just way too long. And inherently, let's go back and just criticize this. You have this intro, and then you jump immediately into talking about the game. 2 of 30, new and popular. How are we at 2 of 30? We were at, this should be 1 of 30. So some game disappeared as this was being generated, got removed, and then you're at 3 of 30. So This is on the screen the whole time for no reason. Well, almost all the time. There was no intro at the beginning saying, hey, today we're going to be talking about this game, this game, this game, and this game. Click here or click on this timestamp. There's no description on this telling you timestamps. There's no link anywhere here to say, hey, here's the games that you might be interested in, here's the games you won't be interested in, or you probably won't be interested in. And I'm not saying it needs to be customized to anybody, I'm just saying it needs to tell you when this is going to happen, or what you're going to even see. It's very possible that this 24-minute and 59-second video would be full of games that nobody is in any way interested in. And they move by so fast that here's a game that I'm actually interested in because I want to look at it a little bit more. It's an anime game, probably a shooter, but it moved after 6 seconds, so that's difficult. Speaking of difficult, I heard this game, They Are Billions, is a particularly difficult style of game later on in the gameplay. It's kind of easy at the beginning and then gets harder in the last few levels.
Well played.
So yeah, the game I'm looking at now is tagged sexual content, but I don't know how much of that. Let me look at the screenshots first before I show them off. Yeah. Alright, we played Warlock class cards, we need Battlecry class cards. So let's try Mage here. This game that I just clicked on is called Muse Dash. It looks like it's a anime-esque music infinite runner style game. I think I've seen people cover it, so it's slightly interesting. It's actually already on my wish list because it's overwhelmingly positive. Now this is a music game, so I very possibly wouldn't be able to actually play it, but whatever. So yeah, this is a game that came out June 20th, 2019. I looked at it, I put it on the wish list, and I forgot about it that quickly. That goes to show there's just so much content that comes out on Steam, that these items certainly make sense. These experiments do make sense, but they also cause some issues, to say the least, as far as trying to cover most games or a lot of games. It's just so much. Speaking of possibly being too much, we have a Gamatsu article here. Gun Pixies has a 10-minute English gameplay video. Compile Heart Shooter is due out in the West in 2019. I assume you'll be playing as Pixies shooting at bikini-laden, normal-sized anime girls. I would play this trailer, but risk of getting claimed or being not family friendly. This is not part of the Gun Gal game series. It's instead taking a similar idea, but not particularly an on-rail shooter. You're more running around a predetermined open world room, and it has some visual novel storyline elements too.
Let me show you the arcade.
So yeah, Gun Pixies, probably not something I could play on YouTube, but if it does come out on PC, which I suspect it is, yeah, it's coming out in North America and Europe for the Switch and PC in 2019. It is something that I think would be silly enough to consider playing. But yeah, it's definitely not YouTube friendly. Watching the trailer here, the character basically blew off all their clothes and took damage. Almost intentional in its placement, but it wasn't. The next article we have here from TechRaptor as sexualized female video game protagonists don't negatively impact women's body image, study says. Which, okay, yeah. I would potentially argue there's no way to do the study in a vacuum. Females have always been sexualized in their depictions and in the way they present themselves when given as free a choice as possible. So everybody wants to look pretty, everybody wants to look attractive. That has been taken to the level that it has been taken to in movies, and music, and TV, and in video games. And there's nothing special about women or girls and playing video games and seeing these things. These are, for the most part, real depictions, or at least realistic depictions of what real people can look like. Nobody is really pushing completely ridiculous, unrealistic body images any more than what you see in photoshopped photos. So this is just another study that once again has destroyed the narrative that often gets pushed. The quote here, let's get into some real science here. Results indicated that exposure to a sexualized avatar in a video game did not influence any outcomes for female participants. The results indicate that, at least for video games, exposure to sexualized females may not have a substantial impact on female players. I think this study was where they were given two avatars, one in regular armor and one in like bikini armor, or they were given the option to see other characters in those styles of armors, and they probably did a double blind style test to see how that would affect people, and it didn't affect them at all. Surprise, surprise. Fiction doesn't affect people that much. That's always been the case, and yet that is a narrative that is constantly pushed by the now, I believe, bankrupt and complete and total failure, in my opinion, Anita Sarkeesian.
So many possibilities.
The idea that this was harmful to the developing young minds of children, not proven by the science study. But that's certainly the puritanical, benevolent sexism that is often pushed by a lot of third wave feminists, particularly in Anita Sarkeesian. Like, if you're not allowing a player of a video game to dress up their characters however they want, you're taking away their freedoms. You're not protecting anything. And if you're demanding that all female characters be shown in puritanical, covered up ways, you're showing that the characters are different in the game and treating the characters differently in the game. And I could go into a bigger rant about it, but there's really no reason, because it really is just talking to a brick wall. Trust me, 10, 20 years from now, there still will be people who have their heads up their own butt, who are still saying that there's a problem in video games. And unless VR games come out and then they'll be saying there's problems in VR games or whatever the new technology is. It was music before, and comic books before, and just novels in general before, too. Whatever the newest thing is.
You win this time.
Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Labyrinth is shutting down for good on Steam in September 2019. I have no idea what this game Labyrinth is. I've never heard of it. It's a turn-based RPG collectible game hybrid. The game was in early access since May of 2016, but it seems to failed to pick up enough of an audience to keep going. This is the way so many early access games go. They just never finish. They never have a finished product, and because they never have a finished product, I'm gonna go back to Zoo Warlock because I think there are more Battlecry cards in Zoo Warlock than the Mage deck. Yeah, that's why I don't buy early access games. And it's kind of just a odd, but I suppose it's news. I don't know if it's super newsworthy, but for the video game industry, it's somewhat newsworthy to say a game is shutting down that's been in early access. But yeah, the only thing I thought maybe is what I'd find out is that it will be my only other thought was that maybe it was going to the Epic store and it was going to be shut down on Steam, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And the way this article is written, it's written like you should buy this game now because you'll never be able to purchase it before, when really the article should be written you shouldn't buy this game at all because it's never a finished product and it's never going to be a finished product. But whatever. We've got an update on a previous story here from Gamatsu. Tabagoro Super Monkey Ball has been rated for the PS4, Switch, and PC in Taiwan. The update is now it has also been rated for Korea. So it seems like there is a new Super Monkey Ball game coming out. For better or worse. Gamatsu has another article here. Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? Infinite Combat launches November 28th in Japan and Asia with English subtitles and adds a Switch and PC version. So seems to me like this is probably going to either be heavily encouraged to be imported into the West, or it actually is going to get a West release. This is based off the anime with this character that was pretty popular about a year or two ago. She's given like this ribbon that she ties around her top. She ties it around her shoulders and around her neck, and so every time she lifts up her arms or moves or anything, it acts as this bra that it just encourages the cleavage bounce. And she does have some hefty cleavage. Otherwise, this is, I think, a pretty generic but relatively well-received isekai anime story, or another world anime story, fantasy anime story. I think it might be worth playing, but it probably isn't. Honestly, because by the time it came to the West, it's probably going to be forgotten. There may be a season 2 of the anime airing right now, and maybe it will continue on for 3 or 4 seasons, although that would be quite the ask on anime series. Usually you get like 2 seasons at most. So I think it probably will be. It's too little, too late. But the game itself might be a standalone, interesting style. Like the game itself might be good enough that to justify redoing it. Let's see.
Come, my pretty bird.
So here's a third YouTube Twitter feed, Team YouTube. Check out the updates as our product chief announces them. So they have fundraising with YouTube Giving. You can make donate buttons. I think with 100% of donations going to the nonprofit. Okay. A donate buttons button helps fans give with 100% of the donations going to a nonprofit. Now, there are ways in which YouTube can still get kickbacks for doing that, because they could be getting a flat fee in general for allowing certain organizations to be on that list in the first place. But that's kind of only speculation. I can't prove that that's what's going on. Alright. Let's see. Learning playlist launching today with some help from our trusted learning partners. We've gathered videos on specified subjects and organized them into lessons from beginner to advanced with chapters focused on key concepts. So I almost assume that there will be a learning playlist out there for like Holocaust denial and things like that, because they had already been leaking to Wikipedia articles when people make one of those videos that's just completely inaccurate, and so they're probably going to get away from recommending Wikipedia articles saying, yes, this really did happen, the Earth is not flat, that type of things, into more learning playlists of here's why the Earth is round, or ovoid. Super stickers are basically just ideas stolen from Twitch and other services. New merch partners. So Rooster Teeth, odd choice. The Rooster Teeth right now is being a merch partner, when Rooster Teeth has got several things going wrong with it, with its organizations, on top of being sued or potentially being sued. Why me? I could have probably done a little bit more damage. Let's see. Also, channel membership levels. You have to be careful about adding all these features, particularly where you're going to start seeing people just shill more and more things. Give me more money, give me more money. If you want me to keep making the videos I've been making this whole time, give me more money. Nobody on YouTube wants to hear that. Even as a content creator who, if he was in the partner program, and again, let me beg for people to subscribe to my channel. If you know anybody whatsoever you can get to subscribe to my channel, or if you can just grab their phone and subscribe to my channel, that'd be very helpful. But I just want to do simplistic, like one ad at the beginning, maybe one ad at the end. I don't want to get crazy with it. I don't want to get annoying with it. And I certainly don't want to get to the point where I'm doing membership levels unless that's something that just is really done tastefully and it's asked for by fans. I'm gonna leave myself some wiggle room, certainly, there, but I definitely don't want to just become a horrible e-beggar for the entire duration of live streams or pre-recorded footage. So 5 different price points is just Patreon, frankly. But I guess maybe that's helpful, although anybody who's not allowed for channel membership levels on YouTube is probably also not allowed on Patreon. More copyright things that they'll be nebulous about it.
Say the magic word.
And yeah, VidCon is the time when they announce all their new things. So that seems like that is the only time in the next 12 months we'll probably see any new features or things added to YouTube, whereas the rest of the next 12 months will just be nightmare, the standard nightmare of being a YouTube content creator.
Put this apple on your head.
Okay,
Why me?
let's hit that and then do this. Got it.
Job's done.
I again think that they're near the end of the year. Before January, YouTube needs to come out and talk some real hardball about what it's done to protect the advertisers, and so there's not another manufactured adpocalypse right around the time when all the advertisers are trying to negotiate a lower price, because it's pretty obvious that the advertisers are, if they're not directly manufacturing these adpocalypses, they're using them to their advantage to get lower and lower rates to run ads, when there's really no competition that should agree with them getting lower and lower rates, because they really can't go to Twitch or YouTube or Facebook or some other service. Google is YouTube is the monopoly as far as running ads in front of videos, and it still is. So yeah, they should definitely work to immunize themselves by having a big presentation talking about, here's the thousands if not millions of videos we've blocked, here's the videos that have been flagged, here's our instances of and reasons these videos have been blocked, here's how we've worked really hard this year to improve that and make sure we are demonetizing things that shouldn't be monetized. Since they're doing those things anyways, they might as well take credit for it. Speaking of bad credit, Twitch support 4 hours ago says we're recovering from an issue that was preventing different parts of the site from loading properly. We're very sorry for the trouble. Seems like that is a constant thing we see on Twitch support. Those that Twitch runs into these little bugs and they're complaining. Maybe it is just an art style thing though. Like maybe it really is just a case of they're apologizing whereas other companies wouldn't apologize. I disagree with it. I don't think you should apologize for a small downtime. It should just happen. Particularly if it's just affecting a website. Now, if you're a game service, maybe apologize for that. I didn't know you could even play that card in ranked. I'm losing it, clearly. He must have gotten that card from him or somebody else. Well, we're still playing, I guess, so let's just keep on playing. I'm trying to think what else needs to be done. There was something else I wanted to talk about, but oh yes. Apparently the YouTube beta, YouTube Studio, the video manager beta is now the default, which doesn't help anything for me particularly at all, and I didn't get any videos scheduled, and I definitely needed to get some of that done yesterday. I need to get some of that done today, and I really kind of don't want to do any of that either, because it's such a nightmare. And if I really have to go through YouTube Studio Beta, it's only going to make it worse. The YouTube Studio Beta is not a finished product. It is, I complained about it last stream, frankly, so this is going to get redundant if I'm not careful. It's not a finished product, it's not a more efficient product, it's just been changed slightly to confuse and delay people's productivity and made to look a little bit prettier. There are some bits of it that could almost be seen as improvements, but there's nowhere enough polish on it for that to feel like a valid statement. Moving on, we have a TechRaptor article. Ion Maiden is now Ion Fury and launches August 15th. Remember, the band Iron Maiden, which really shouldn't have a trademark for the phrase Iron Maiden, was suing them, and apparently they settled. But yeah, in the end, I don't think it really is going to change too much, because this Iron Fury game, like Ion Maiden, is just a modern game designed to look like a Duke Nukem game, and that's about it. It's not really something I think I'd want to play, or anything that looks interesting. I feel like there's a level of just bad gameplay design concept in general there. I don't think too many people want to play old 3D first-person shooters. And it seems like the main character lady, her artwork has been changed, so now she looks to be slightly less interesting. It looks like her outfit's changed and covering up more, and it looks like her gun may have changed. So yeah, I was uninterested in Iron Maiden, and I'm uninterested in Iron Fury. Let's see. Let's go ahead and attack with this first. Do this. Then that. I only have about 5 more things to talk about. We have a game on Steam here called Kingdom Wars 2 Definitive Edition. This is mostly positive. I think I'm going to put it on the follow list. I think I actually was supposed to put this on the follow list from Wednesday. In fact, we may be going through just the games from Wednesday. So, yeah. I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. Because I accidentally did not do any of the follow-up work on Wednesday either. Yeah, because the next game on this is Chroma Squad, which is already in my library. so I don't really even have to talk about it. I think it was free, was that, or something. And then the next game was yet another hero story, which looked like a point and click. I was going to put on the follow list and see if it was good enough. So we already talked about that one. And so then the last two of these are also going to be fall list games. Monsters of Little Haven, which is a black and white looking game that I was going to give a chance to. And it's gotten a little bit more reviews, so it is 17 reviews, mostly positive. 100% positive, actually. And then, what was the other one? Was this game called Godhood, which is mixed. And so, seeing that it's mixed now and it's already got the reviews, I don't even need to put this game on the follow list. I was iffy in the first place on this, and it really goes to show that if I had time and just left all the games out for a week, half of them would get reviews in that first week. And then that brings me to the Humble Bundle store, so let's see if there's any new bundles, and then I'm going to go back to my Twitter feed and see if there's anything there. Yeah, there's no new Humble Bundle things to mention. There probably isn't any new tweets either. It's a slow Friday. Let me just open what's on Steam's Twitter feed. Yeah, there's some games that came out on what's on Steam, so it seems like they may have taken a while for their API to update. So that'll give us some more games to talk about. Yeah, quite a few more games to talk about. Am I finally done? 20 battle cry cards. We need 3 mighty cards. It would be mighty though. I don't have anything that's mighty. Let's see. How do I have cards that need to be dusted, by the way? That doesn't make any sense. Alright. This. Druid. Here. This. And then 5. I don't think actually spells are what we want. Alright, then before we fill this in, let's see if we can add coins. That doesn't help me in any way. Let's see if we can add mana. Okay, that gets me to that point. Now, do I want more 5s? Sure. And then I'm gonna just say, build it the rest from that. So custom Druid 2, if I can play 3 cards from that, that'll be a nice little custom build deck. Well, I'm opening more tabs.
Malfurion versus Illyria.
I'm looking at the Amazon.com Prime Day sales. It doesn't look like there's going to be too much on sale, frankly. But there does look like the Sega Genesis Mini might be on sale. So if I could hop on that, there might be a reason to grab that. But everything else seems like it's generic. Amazon Prime Day has never really been great sales. It's just kind of a great excuse to buy something on Amazon.com, particularly if you just haven't bought any things. Unfortunately, with more important things needing to be purchased, like video cards and video games on Steam, yeah, if there's like Steam gift cards that were on sale, I might grab that. But most of what usually shows up is not going to be great. I wouldn't be surprised if there are Raspberry Pi 3 Model B Pluses on sale. Not a terrible thought, but not the greatest either. The Raspberry Pi Model 4 seems to be perfectly fine, and it's already got a firmware upgrade to potentially improve some of its issues. It does get hot, it seems like, and it is still a tiny PC trying to do a lot, so it's not going to replace a $500 laptop or something like that.
Got one. Got one.
But yeah, I don't suspect there'll be too much that I actually buy, if anything. Yeah, and I am now through all the new tweets, and it's given me about 10 new games to talk about, and that's about it. But at least now we have a more reasonable thing. At least one of these games looks like an adult game also, so I guess that kind of resets the clock on, yeah, they're not stopping adult games, although the fact that there's only one adult game that came out seems a little weird and suspicious, to say the least. But if even one's getting through, I assume that's maybe just a slowdown in game releases in general. So we have this game here called Plague World, which looks like a kind of low-effort dungeon crawler game, probably full of asset flips from the look of it. It's early access, it's free in English only, but of course it's not making it to the fall list. We're gonna watch this actually play through. I think I'm actually only on my European account, so we may just wrap up here and not even show off the Asian account too much.
Time runs out on me.
Next we have a game here, so I went quiet there, called Spy Tactics, which looks like a lot like Hitman Go. I didn't really like Hitman Go, but I guess I'm willing to put this on the follow list and maybe see if there's something here or something more to this. Is this from the same developer as the Hitman Go series? No, because that would be published by Ubisoft, wouldn't it? It's discounted to $2.69, Spy Tactics is, and it's English and Russian, so it may be kind of nothing. But even if this is a low effort asset flip game, it has a level of polish on it, even in stealing the Hitman Go concept, enough that it looks unique. Until we start seeing 4 or 5 of these come out every week, or we see another dozen or so of these come out in the next month or so, I can't really say Spy Tactics does not stand out. So I'll put it on the follow list, see what the reviews say. Wouldn't be surprised if the reviews actually don't say much of anything. Let's see this. And then I need to give them +1/+1. So I can do this. So I can do this. So I can do this.
Job's done.
It gave me a mana crystal for no reason. I'm just gonna quickly scroll down the What's on Steam Twitter feed and see if maybe I'm not seeing all of their posts. It might be that Twitter has changed things. That could be it. No, it really just seems like that it wasn't working. Here we have somebody on the chat. I can't pronounce that. Let's see. Andranik Baldrian says hello. Hello. I am somewhat paying attention to the chat. There's definitely some games I either didn't see yesterday. Yeah, I think that's part of the problem, is that I took yesterday off and at no point checked the feed. But I think the What's on Steam, I'm not getting all the tweets too. Might be time to mute some people again so that I can get more news to actually talk about. Or I need to change how I do things, which is probably I just need to change how I do things. I can play 5 cost minions. I should be playing 5 cost minions. I'm playing stupidly here. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to change how I do things going forward. So next game we have on Steam is called Blazing Chrome. It's already rated very positively. This is a Contra style game. I'm not sure if this video is going to actually show any of it. Here it is. Yeah. So 2-player co-op. I think you can play it in 1 player too. Contra style game, for lack of a better term. $16.99. Single player, local multiplayer, local co-op, no online, English and a bunch of languages. I'm gonna put this on the follow list. I kind of need to have some thoughts about, can I play a Contra game, because they are difficult, but
Get behind me.
that's kind of my only main concern is would I just get my behind handed to me every time I try to play something like that. Next, here's a game on Steam called Red Hot Vengeance, which looks like it's a black and white and red top-down twin-stick shooter. Looks like it's probably an office shooting simulator, for lack of a better term. It's free. It's English. If you want to try it out, that's fine by you. I don't think YouTube would be particularly happy if I covered this game, nor is there really reason to cover a free game. Check out Red Hot Vengeance if you want to play it. I don't think it's going to be that interesting. I think it's probably heavily inspired by Super Hot. So draw 3 cards. And do this. And then play this. And then we'll lose. Because now he just kills this and it kills me. But whatever, we go out with a bang. We have Earth Defense Forces 5 came out. I feel like I probably looked at this, or I know I definitely talked about news articles talking about this coming out. But yeah, I don't think I actually looked at the Steam page. So this is $47 discounted, $47.99 discounted, and English, Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. And I'm gonna put this on the fall list, and this might be the first Earth Defense Forces game that's actually worth having on the wish list and worth having to play. So, interesting. Let's see, let me just quickly go through this next game's screenshots. And while we're doing that, let's move over to your Asian account and just give a slight showing of what is going on here. So next game we have on Steam here is called Stargirls. This game is not tagged nudity or sexual content, although I think it probably should be. So that's interesting. It looks like it's a dating simulator slash shoot 'em up game. I think it deserves to be followed. It's $12.99. It does have, let's see, this game may contain content not appropriate for all ages. It may not be appropriate for viewing at work. Sexual content, general mature content. So no sexual content tag coming to the top here, but in the actual developer's disclosure there is. It says English only. Alright, so sexual content though does not seem to imply any nudity, which then makes it seem like there is a decent chance that this is a edited game and you can get some kind of patch somewhere else. So I need to win with a rogue or a warrior, and let's see. You kind of have to play this because here's the deal. It wants you to play 30 cards, so I can win with a rogue or warrior in standard play. But after you play those 30 cards, it's going to ask you with another daily quest to let's try warrior, ranked warrior. It's going to ask you to play the Tavern Brawl, even if you don't want to or not ready to. Next game we have on Steam is called Soul Seraph, which the video is not loading, and I don't think that's because I'm out of bandwidth per se. This is a tower defense game, but it looks like it has several other aspects to it. So the fact that it's labeled tower defense scares me away, and the fact that these videos don't seem to want to load scares me away, but I'm going to put this on the follow list. It's $14.99, no discount. Lots of languages supported. There's just something in the screenshots that I can see that makes this look like it is a 2D platformer beat 'em up with some visual novel storytelling, and while there is clearly some tower defense in it, and some construction, there also seems to be a different style of gameplay that happens here. This in no way looks like tower defense. So perhaps a little bit of tower defense with some other types of gameplays might change things around and make a better experience. Let's see. We have not been really seeing a lot of troll games lately. Or in this case, we really don't often see just straight up copyright infringement and stolen ideas. So we have here Cyberpunk Girls 2077, which is mixed review. It is a jigsaw puzzle game with anime characters where the art very possibly is stolen. Here you have a anime Keanu Reeves. This is 69 cents discounted and sports lots of languages. And this is a 60 achievement game. So what you take from this though is, yeah, these sexual content games, although maybe this doesn't have nudity in it again, they seem to still be getting approved pretty well. Yeah, according to the description, some characters wear mildly revealing clothing, which I think is probably a slight understatement. So we might be seeing the beginning of a no nudity policy, but yes, ludity policy on Steam, as that this policy is oddly and randomly enforced. Or it might just be nothing. Yeah.
Access denied.
But let's see, this next game that I'm looking at, called Love Love Love, seems to be very much depicting sexually suggestive emotions, to say the least. So I can barely even, half these screenshots are not really YouTube safe. It seems like what this game is you're just running around erasing the picture as fast as possible. Seems like that's what you're doing. It doesn't feel like this is a very good game. It's 59 cents though, lots of languages, 28 achievements. Let's see. It says this game contains naked and pornographic content. All characters are over 18 years old. So yeah, this one seems like it is straight up, although maybe not actual sex acts are being depicted. Generally that is what pornographic content means though.
Job's done.
So yeah, these things still seem to be getting allowed on Steam in weird bursts, and it always seems like they come out on Friday. Every Friday, every 2 weeks is what seems to be the schedule. So I suspect there is somebody somewhere that looks at all these games and approves most of them, although sometimes seems to disapprove of some, which then causes people to complain. Next we have a game on Steam called Streets of Rogue. It's labeled overwhelmingly positive. This must be a rogue light game, or so. None of these images want to load. Why do they not want to load? I don't see anything particularly visually interesting about this game, but I'll put it on the follow list because it really is just a mob rule experience. Like when you've got thousands and thousands of people that are overwhelmingly positive, it probably is good, and I did like Rogue Legacy. It's $19.99. So yeah, I'll put it on the follow list. Right now I'm trying to win a game. I'm not trying to do anything else. Next we have a game on Steam called Royal Life, Hard to be a Queen. This looks like this is one of those resource strategy games where you move people around to repair buildings and such. Those kind of games never really interest me. It's $3.59 discounted, English and Russian, which is a little bit of a red flag, but not a lot. Let's see.
I've got the beast in my sack.
The next game we have on Steam is called Vermilion Watch Parisian Pursuit Collector's Edition. This is from Big Fish Games. We haven't seen one of these Big Fish Games hidden object games in a while. And it looks like this is a more recent one because it's widescreen. Looks kind of fancy and polished, as they always do. And it is selling for $12.59 discounted. So they are still at the high price, but not the highest price. I think I've seen them go up to $13 even, or $12.99. So then they realized apparently $13 was too much to ask. The Vermilion Watch is English only as far as the language. We have a game that came out on Steam called Isotiles 2. This looks like this is a puzzle game where you have to paint the entire surface. Doesn't look particularly interesting to me. Seems like it would just be a lot of repetitiveness. And it looks not as visually polished as I would like. I don't see really a score or a timer or any kind of user interface at all. It's $2.39 discounted, English only is the language. Yep. Choose a menu, become a copy of it.
Converting stored energy.
There you go. Take that. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Lost Tales: The Castle Escape. This looks like an MS Paint level of graphics on an NES style of game. It's definitely not visually appealing. It's $5.59 discounted, and it's English, Portuguese, Brazilian. So, yep. I don't see anything there. Let's see. And play that. And guess we'll just end there. Next we have a game on Steam called Disatone Confusion. It says it's a short storm about a mysterious incident. To me it looks like it's probably an asset flip horror game. outside of the dark screenshot syndrome, of which there is a lot here, there might be something here of interest. Because some of this looks like it might have a interesting setting.
I wonder.
I don't know though. I'll put it on the follow list. It's $2.54 discounted. English only. It's rated M according to them, which is probably not actually rated.
Save the best for last.
Interesting. And if my deck is empty, I can play this. Interesting. So, 14 more cards until my deck would be empty. Disatone Confusion, yeah, I'll put it on the follow list. And we should be approaching the point where we've seen everything. Although, I'm at a dangerous position here where I might go in circles.
Drink with me, friend.
Save the best for last.
Let's see, we have a game here on Steam called Earth X. This seems like this is probably just a low effort simulation game, I guess. Yeah, it's clearly designed to have name confusion around SpaceX, the Tesla space initiative thing. The guy who owns Tesla also owns SpaceX. It's early access. It's $7.19 discounted. It's English and Polish. I don't see anything here that interests me as far as a satellite or spaceship or rocket launching strategy game. This and this and this.
Challenge
That.
accepted.
And next we have a game on Steam called Avocado, which is like an avocado. Looks like it's a platforming game. There might be something to this. Or this might just be a joke game. But if it is a joke game, it's really polished in what I'm saying. So, it may have been an idea that was a joke to start off with, but it seems like there's enough polish here to at least be on the follow list and see if people like it and review it well. It's $13.49 discounted. That's a little expensive for what I would have said would probably be a $7 game. And it's got full audio English, allegedly. So, yeah, might be something to it. A lot of achievements, too. That's maybe a little bit of a red flag.
Hostile detected.
Challenge accepted.
There we go. So yeah, I think what this has brought it down to is that
The victory is yours.
if I am, yeah, there's no more games to talk about. If I am specifically looking at the What's on Steam Twitter feed, I will see all their games. Maybe I'm not always seeing them always on my personalized Twitter front page feed. And that is in part because I'm not checking it as much as I would like to be checking it. Need to play a bunch of Hunter class cards, which means I could start Into the Tavern Brawl and play Hunter. We have here, we're going to wrap up in just a second, and I have 5 more tweets to talk about. It just came out. Here, we'll just go on the title on this one. Let's see. Overwatch developer update announces a delay on Hero 31 and summer games are coming sooner. There's more information if you're interested as far as that. But yeah, that's kind of unimportant. And then the other article we have here is from Gamma Sutra. Gears 5 is going to drop depictions of smoking after the urging from the Truth Initiative, which I guess is alright. But then inherently I think more people are juuling and e-cigarette smoking these days than they are smoking real cigarettes or cigars. As for this, yeah, I gotta just play 7 more cards and then that'll unlock something, and play 30 more 100 cards and that'll unlock something. And for this Tavern Brawl, if I unlock this pack, whatever. If I don't unlock this pack, we'll play it on Monday. And let's see, there's not, I think, anything else that really needs to be talked about. So that's going to be it for this live stream. It's been slightly more interactive. Somebody got on the chat on a Friday, so that's good. That's it for this recording. Though, as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that helps me with YouTube. Tells them that my videos are worth watching. When you subscribe, click the notification bell, and then click the options on the notification bell if you want to get all notifications for real. If you want backup notifications, there's a bunch of social media links down below in the description box. And if you want to support my channel even more, which would be greatly appreciated, there's a link to Patreon down below. Or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list, or gift me a game you want to see me cover, or just gift a gift card. Those are all valid ways to one-time support my channel. Thank you for watching.